Well, a tour that started with so much promise, India winning a test match in Centurion, suddenly turn of the year, and we haven't seen India win in South Africa. Can that change as the ODI series is on the line? Back in Pal we are, and back with Daryll, Cullinan and Sanjay Manjrekar we are. Second ODI is where our attention lies. It's a very good morning to Daryll, a good afternoon to Sanjay. Gentlemen, let's talk about this game. I don't know if Sanjay Manjrekar would hold the opinion that this ODI series went out of the World Super League wouldn't matter if India were to lose it, but fair to say, almost like the Test, Sanjay, they came into this ODI series as significant favourites, and here they are now with the series on the line and possibly another defeat. Would that be a big deal?
Yes, because they're trying to win the series. It's not like they're trying out new talent for the future because the series is not that crucial from points point of view. So they haven't gone that way. They're looking to play the best team possible to win. And they've lost one game. To be fair, they've lost one game. They lost the toss there, but today they won the toss. So maybe, fortunes would change because there is a clear advantage batting first. So I hope India can cash in on that. But if they were breeding young players to just have a look at what lies as options for Indian cricket, then maybe the result wouldn't matter that much. But it certainly matters when you're trying to play a full strength team and experience and players in the playing 11 and stuff.
Yeah, fair points, those, because the likes of Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Shikhar Dhawan, of course, who had fine innings the other day, were all started in this series. The intent, you think, from India was to put their strongest team out. Let's talk about the toss, Daryll. Sanjay makes the point now. Significant advantage. These days, we don't have much of that chat in ODIs in day games when teams win the toss and want to bat first. The old school, you called it the old fashioned sort
Day
of ODI
games.
we saw. Today, yes, today we've seen India win that toss. Are we agreeing that, yes, this is an advantage now in PAL to bat first and get your spinners into the game later?
Well, I think we're going to see the decider then in the remaining one-day internationals. I like the fact that India won the toss because it is a significant advantage. I can tell you that yesterday was warm. Today is even warmer than the first one-day international. So a lot of speculation and chat around the pitch. So I think India were pretty pleased. South Africa spinners outbowled them just by a little bit. But I think it'll be a different story this afternoon for the South African batters against the Indian spinners.
Yeah, there are so many different tangents to talk about. One, of course, let's talk about India's ability to come back from behind in a series, which has happened on more than one occasion, though pre-pandemic. If we look at the numbers, they've done it against Australia, they've done it against the West Indies, decent white ball sides too. So they have a history of coming from behind, maybe starting a three-match ODI series rather slow. So you could fancy India's KL Rahul's led team to perhaps do the business as they pick up the pace in the second ODI. But let's take Daryl's point first up. India spinners will be in action later on, Sanjay, with this chat of South Africa spinners outbowling them. Now, how much of that was down to better conditions and the advantage of the toss? How much of it was just rather a surprise that India spinners didn't bowl as well? Ashwin and Chahal versus the likes of Shamsi and Maharaj with Aiden Markram.
And KL Rahul, when he was asked at the toss what he thought was one of the main reasons for India going down in that game, he said that not enough wickets in the middle. But then I don't understand when you pick a spinner who has a long-standing record of not taking wickets in the middle, and Jadeja is the other one in white ball cricket. So when India have gone that way, they can't be complaining about not getting wickets in the middle because the guys who are taking wickets in the middle are not part of their plans anymore. In this particular pair that we have currently, Chahal is sort of the wicket taker. Ashwin has over the years shown us in white ball cricket that he's more keen on the economy rate, although I thought he bowled superbly in the first 3-4 overs, and a couple of times there were drop catches there. So hopefully he bowls differently. But couple of good deliveries, one from Keshav Maharaj to Shikhar Dhawan, and then Tabraiz Shamsi to Virat Kohli. I thought that turned the game. And it were two spinners who were able to get wickets. And that's the job of a spinner, to get wickets in the middle and change the course of the match, which the Indian spinners couldn't do.
Do you think somewhere, Daryll, with the amount of T20 cricket being played and the lack of ODI cricket, spinners need some readjusting to almost remain potent for a 10-over spell, which may be split into, say, 2 or 3 spells, which otherwise your focus lies for 4 overs and T20s. You know what your job is depending on what period your captain bowls you. And the old-fashioned way requires a little readjusting, which takes time.
It can, but I think ultimately it comes down to your skills. I'd like to see the Indian spinners and even the South African ones, if they asked to bowl, to look to try and turn the ball. I mean, that's when I think of Chahal, that's what I think of him. But the moment they went flatter, maybe that's the sort of go-to in terms of, right, someone sweeps me or hits me once, fielders tend to get back very easily, and then it's flatter and straighter, which can be more the case in terms of T20 cricket, where T20 cricket for spinners, they got to be hitting the stumps, and it's about length. Whereas here, you can be given that bit of freedom to get the ball up a little bit, make it sort of turn. So the game changer for South Africa is from the distance. I'm very interested to see how the Indian spinners are going to adjust and how the Indian batters are going to look to adjust, particularly to the likes of Shamsi, who has that ability to take a wicket or two.
Right.
Can I quickly make a point, Ronak? I'd like to get especially the spinners to start looking at 50 overs cricket as an extended or a shortened version of Test cricket rather than an extended version of T20 cricket. Because what happens when the spinners are bowling, nobody's looking to hit them for fours and sixes like it's in T20 cricket. It's a bit like Test cricket. They're just trying to milk them for ones and twos. So if you have spinners who aren't able to get wickets while the batters are just looking for ones and twos and defending the odd ball, then you're in trouble. You've got to have guys who have the skill to get a batter out while defending or trying to pick up a single, because that's what the batting teams are doing in the middle. And if you have spinners who are happy to bowl economically, they're actually helping the opposition in their plans of not losing wickets.
Yeah, fair point that Yuzvendra Chahal has been such a potent force for India in ODIs because he used to get wickets along with Kuldeep Yadav in the middle. That story seems to have changed rather drastically since the 2019 50-over World Cup in England. Chahal's average in 8 innings after, and yes, it's a smaller sample size, isn't particularly great. It's gone up to nearly 35. That wicket-taking ability has gone. It also coincides with what's been a bit of a lack of form for Yuzvendra Chahal in white ball cricket, Sanjay. That being said, he did show some of his best in the IPL after India's T20 World Cup was announced, which he was not a part of. Something changed about Chahal, the 50-over bowler? Is there a bit of a verdict that's soon coming, depending on how he goes in every ODI?
See, last game was the reality that Chahal had to face, that if you have a good batter who's willing to take him on the good balls, it wasn't like Chahal bowled badly. It wasn't like he was bowling long hops or full tosses. There were at least 5 boundaries that were hit off his good deliveries, and mostly through sweep shots. So he's got to find a way to make a miscue happen when somebody like a Russell Anderson said tries to sweep and you get a top head like Shamsi got Virat Kohli out. So that is the next challenge for Chahal. And whether there is still enough potency after the ball pitches is something that we'll come to know through the course of the series. But that's something that he'll have to work at, more potency and nip after the ball pitches, because he's not bowling badly. It's just, the reaction and how much he's getting out of the pitch. And that is going to be the key. But, Chahal is back in contention on merit, because the other spinning, options that India had, which they tried, Varun Chakraborty in white ball cricket, Rahul Chahar, he outbowled all of them. So let's hope he finds his old mojo back.
All right, fair enough. Now, would KL Rahul use him differently? Yes, these are all conversations for the second innings. India are going to bat first. But Daryll, what we saw is Ashwin's introduction was in the 12th over when India were bowling first last time. Aiden Markram, on the other hand, started straight away. In fact, even got 6 overs out of the way, which you think is a big relief for an ODI captain trying to work around his 5th and 6th bowling options. Do you see things differently now? Do you see Markram firstly starting with India batting first? Do you see a different approach perhaps? And should India try that too? Try bowling some spin early on today?
Well, with India having to bowl second, they may look to use the likes of Ashwin up front, even Chahal, particularly to the left-hander. Probably Ashwin is the better option. But I think they'll gauge it as the first innings comes to a close, if there's something on offer. I don't anticipate South Africa starting with Markram. Bavuma in the toss spoke about he felt that at least bowling first, there might be something in it for the seamers. So I can't see that sort of happening this morning. So I think it'll just be normal good cricket, the seamers looking to do the job. But as the day goes on, we'll have a pretty good idea of how much turn this pitch is actually taking.
Speaking of that contest, Markram versus Rahul, it's only a 17 ball innings, it's only one ODI, and Rahul got 12. But Sanjay, sometimes we are quick to understand what KL Rahul has shown up to the party, whether it's the free-flowing attacking batter that has given the license, or the captain of the Punjab side that often decides that I'm going to play cautiously, and invariably then there's a huge debate on how he plays. He let Aiden Markram bowl to him. I wonder if there's going to be something different that you'd like to see KL Rahul do, whether this is KL Rahul, the captain, who we can afford a little more time. This is not T20 cricket after all.
I think Markram took them by surprise a little bit, and India was looking at a target. 290 is what we have to get. And KL Rahul, as a batter, captain, top of the order, would have been saying, my job is to get 120 not out and win the game. So with Virat Kohli, that is the thought process. So when people are setting long-term plans, they don't generally take risks against somebody like a Markram. And what also helped KL Rahul's cause was Shikhar Dhawan. He was in a very attacking mood. He was taking a lot of chances. So KL Rahul in a 50 overs game felt obliged to be second fiddle. But this is a trait we've seen with KL Rahul that when he's captain of Punjab Kings 11, takes the onus on himself a lot, which we have talked so much about. And here again, he let Dhawan take the initiative and play second fiddle. So he's got to make a decision, firm one, whether he can be a Virat Kohli who can play in the second and third gear till the very end and win games and remain not out. If he can do that, then he has the license to go slow at the start. But if he's going to leave the team halfway through, like he does for Punjab Kings quite often, you might as well see the free-flowing KL Rahul.
From what we saw of how the innings started for South Africa last time, Daryl, and it did fall apart a little in the first 15 when they lost three and then had to rebuild. What's the ideal way to build an innings batting first, given there is an advantage? Do you sort of go hard, or do you play the old-fashioned sort of game? You accumulate and then look to cash in and get as many towards the end.
I think South Africa, the best option for them would be to try and establish a good start. I think that's hugely important. I think that's where Milan comes into focus, so does Quinton de Kock. But bearing in mind, a lot depends on what they're having to chase. So I think partnerships are going to be hugely important. And then that middle order. South Africa don't want to find themselves too many down. If they can be behind the rate, that's fine, but lead themselves with wickets in hand. And then that middle order is important. I think the same, for me, just go back to India, I think the same applies to them, is their ability to control the middle order. And I won't be surprised if Rahul comes down the order. Because then you got Ashwin, and that tail's a little bit long. But the control, I don't see it being a game of let's get as many as we can in the power play. But let's control it with the ball's a bit slow, the spinners are bowling. And the one thing that I think India must be mindful of is that South Africa in the past, in the last 2-3 years, have been very poor in the death overs. They've gone for a lot of runs. And I don't think maybe they are aware of that, but I would, if I was approaching the South African attack, say, look, most importantly, let's give us a good player or two at the back end of the innings, because they've battled, Ngedi's battled, Peshlukwaya they've used, he's proved he hasn't been successful. And then you've got inexperienced. Makhala's playing today, good bowler, but they're leaving themselves with too much to do with too little. And I would purposely look to put myself in a position where we can really go hard with enough wickets in hand against the South African attack.
On that point, just before I go to Sanjay, where that one change from both sides that comes in is that Sisanda Magala plays. He's only played the one ODI against the Netherlands in November, and played the T20I series against Pakistan in April. Right? Very entertaining series. That he's known for his Yorker. Dale Steyn spoken of that as well, Daryl. So is that what South Africa are looking to address? The fact that Marco Jansen perhaps doesn't give them as many options at the death. They've gotten someone who's supposed to be a specialist. He's young in his career, but he is 31. Is Magala? What can you tell us about him?
He's an exciting bowler. He's got a beautiful action. When you see him bowl, that's a classic sort of action. But I'm very pleased South Africa played for him. I, in fact, would have called for it, leaving Jansen out for no particular reason. But you don't want to win with your same 11, and then it's a dead rubber come the third game. It's like a token gesture for anybody who gets to play. If you really want to bring players through, let them play under pressure with the series at stake. Parnell would have been the other option, but I like the fact that they've gone with Magala. But let's wait and see. He might get the new ball. You never know. But he is someone that has caught the eye in South African cricket.
If it is a tactical call, and if it is Jansen not fit, it's an interesting point, isn't it, Sanjay? India tend to not change whether they win or lose. Even when we've wanted and pleaded that they try out players, at times they're quite rigid with their selection. And one of those things is trying to identify a weak spot. Again, back we are here discussing whether India's middle order still remains undercooked, remains soft, and whether there is an intent to try and fix that. They didn't go for Surya Kumar Yadav or Ishan Kishan last game. They stick with Venkatesh Iyer. You think there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of hope from his batting now that's needed?
KL Rahul made a commitment start of the series where he said that there's not going to be too much of experimentation. The personnel is not going to change as much. So he's kept his word. He hasn't changed his, playing 11, but tactics could change. I didn't like Rishabh Pant coming in at number 4. I didn't like the fact that Ashwin was batting at number 7 in a 50 overs game. Ashwin in Test cricket at number 7 and 8 makes a lot of sense. In 50 overs cricket, not so much. So there is a little bit of a problem to be addressed in the middle. India don't have a Hardik Pandya or somebody like a Jadeja who was doing the job for India in the last couple of years to go hammer and tongs. So they have to find somebody there. It's a tough one for Venkatesh Iyer on slow pitches because his ability that we've seen and has been recognized has been at the top of the order. So I'd like to see, like Daryll mentioned, KL Rahul has the class to bat at the top down the order as well, make life easier for the newcomers and make life harder for the incumbents, the senior incumbents, and switch them around because you'll get more out of Venkatesh Iyer, the batter, if you bat him up at the top of the order, and that brings a little more of solidity, or just the middle order, as the word that I used last time, makes it a little more wholesome.
Yeah, it is a point you also mentioned in the last game. Now, I wonder if you think this decision itself was ill-advised, that when Rohit Sharma was not part of this series, that they decided to do what they had almost committed themselves to do regardless of personnel, that Rahul would bat in the middle order, because at your best team, you'll have Kohli at 3 and then Dhawan and Rohit at the top. Now, is that because this series could have been looked at in the short term and you think, let's play our best team, which is Rahul at the top? Or could it be Rahul, the captain, deciding, I want to bat where I like to bat, which is top 2? Would you have still wanted him to play in the middle order?
See, my view is that this is a great series to try out your other players, and what team management has to do is, when you get in young players, give them the best platform to excel. Don't give them the difficult job. Like Venkatesh Iyer in the last game when he came into bat, it was a tough job to expect somebody now who was feeling the pressure that he's playing in the team as a pure batter if you haven't bowled him. And if KL Rahul has the ability to bat down the order, he should be doing it. But the Indian cricket culture has always been about the senior player as to what he wants to do. So I have a feeling somewhere the team management may have recognized Rahul's keenness to bat at the top of the order. Maybe that might change today. We might get a surprise. I'd like to see the younger players, the inexperienced, the more uncertain players in the side get better opportunities to perform. When it comes to World Cups, crunch games, you don't want to do that. But in this kind of a series, I think that's the smarter way to go about it.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about South Africa's key performers. They are 1-0 up in this series, and they have Rassie van der Dussen to thank for it. Outstanding 100. Yes, perhaps the slight advantage of batting first for South Africa. But you look at van der Dussen's career, and I was just trying to think, Daryll, if this guy was Indian or if he was English or Australian, we'd be talking him up to be the next all-time great. The guy he's got an average of over 70 in a decent sample size now of 30-odd ODIs. And that's where he stands now, at a home average of 118. And here he is, poor South African that he is. We're not really looking at him as the next big thing, but he looks like a formidable force in ODI cricket. Does he have a weakness, this fellow?
I was I'd retire and take that average and just bask in my glory about an average of over 70. But, I had a look at it this morning, Ronnie, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I was, wow, I never realized this guy averaged over 70, and he's played some really good innings. But, we mentioned it last time. Of the best of Rassie van der Dussen is just the way that he puts it together. He's got a very good head on his shoulders. I think that's a given by now. He's able to play a situation particularly well. But what I enjoy about his cricket, he's very good against the slow bowlers. But he classically doesn't really hit the ball in the air. Now, I know Sanjay would appreciate that because, and I've been a top order batter myself, he's not all smash and grab, is he? He's a skillful manipulator of the ball. And he has a point to prove. And once he gets in, and he's in a crucial position for South Africa, he's right there in the middle order. And talking about batting lineups, you've got to play the situations. Yeah. And that's where South Africa are particularly good. But look, that first win was built on 2 players putting on 200 together. But Rassie, let's think next year, the World Cup's in India. So the way that he's playing, and Shamsi, my friend Shamsi said after the first ODI, we've beaten India in Indian conditions. So the point being that Rassie should play very well there. So I think he could have a brilliant 12 months ahead of him.
Sanjay, would you share that view? And surely Rasi would be part of India's pre-match team talks on how they look to bowl at him after he played Yuzvendra Chahal as well as he did.
And you're so right about players coming from a certain country to get the attention of the world, because the not just the numbers. I mean, you might say he's having a freak run, but his pedigree was seen even before he played for South Africa, because his list A career also shows an average close to 50. So this guy is exceptional, and forget about numbers. I said in the last game as well, he looks really special, just like Keegan Peterson. During the Test series, again, a guy who should now be, talked about all over the world as the new rising star in Test cricket globally. But doesn't happen if you're a certain kind of personality and come from a certain country. But skills as well. Really impressed with the way Rassi played in the last game. I said it at the time as well, that he seems to have 2 or 3 options for one particular delivery, seems to be in control. I don't know how much inspiration A.B. de Villiers has been on his batting, ambitions, but there's certainly the same kind of method. Now you can have ABs as a model, but very difficult to replicate. But I was really impressed. That was an exceptional innings filled with a lot of skillful stroke play, and he made Babuma's 100 look like a match-winning one, because he was really the guy who took that target beyond India's reach. Because I was a little concerned about the way Bavuma was going, especially when it was coming close to 100.
If I might just make a point there, sorry, Ronak, just to pick
Please.
up on, because it would have been surely a big discussion point. So what do the Indian spinners do? Now, if I had to put my cap on, I would say, look, just keep getting it up there. Let's see if we can get them to leave their crease a little bit. But it changed. We know there's a momentum shift. We've touched on it already that perhaps India went flat into T20 mode. But let's get it out there. Try and sweep that. You might get a bit of bounce. You might find the top edge. And that's what I would think Charles press bowl that middle line and ask him to hit you through the offside more. If he misses it, comes down, he's out. So that's going to be an intriguing part of how, and that's why I would have thought India perhaps would have gone with someone instead of Ashwin who takes the ball away from the bat. There's only one dangerous opener who's a lefty up front, and then you got Miller down the order. Maybe taking away to that middle order, so they've got right-handers taking the ball away. But I'm really looking forward to see how they game.
But India had 2 bowlers taking the ball away from the right-hander.
Yeah, I had that joke ready too. Ashwin would take great offense to the fact that there's only one bowler who can spin the ball away, but that's Ashwin. Sanjay's point is well noted. We're having some fun here. India have to do the first job well of getting their bowlers some runs to defend. Then the matchup against Razi van der Dusen and the rest of the South African batting becomes even more intriguing. Indian openers on their way out, but en route to making those runs, let's talk about Tabraiz Shamshi for a minute or two if we have that time, because the wicket of Virat Kohli was significant for a man who masters chasers, who looked like the old Virat Kohli, at least with that 50 and the ease at which he got it. Shamsi seems to have turned a corner, Daryl, with his ODI career, in his white ball career. We know that he's the number 1 T20 bowler, has occupied that position in the rankings for a while. Something happened since 2019. His average has dipped and he seems more potent. He's going at a better economy rate too, 23 wickets from 13 innings. Now, he might go at 5 and over, but he gets you those key wickets, Tabraiz Shamshi. I wonder if India are looking at him as the kind of bowler not to necessarily take undue risks against.
I don't think they would be looking to necessarily take. I wouldn't advise it. You've got to play him on the day and see how well he's bowling. But I didn't sense that any of the Indian players were under a lot of pressure facing him. I think he's the sort of guy they want to pick off. They're probably aware of the good thing about him. He's not scared to bowl his variations. I think he's encouraged to do that. His role is to be a wicket taker. We haven't really seen him bowl where that's not the case, where the guys up front haven't taken wickets, gone for a few runs. But I mean, that was par for the day, 2 for 52. I mean, Virat chalked one, so I think that was hugely unlucky. You won't see that kind of happen too often. But the good thing about him, and maybe it's a message for the other spinners as well, that he backs himself to bowl his variations, looking to take it in and out. And he'll always have the batsman, just that moment, just having a good look at him.
Sanjay, anything on India's approach against Tabraiz Shamshi? Again, that doesn't seem the kind of bowler you want to play out like a Rashid Khan and not take risks against, and that perhaps just works to his advantage.
Yeah, India was setting themselves long-term plans, and hence, no real keenness to unsettle Shamsi. They don't look at him as a threat, nor Keshav Maharaj. And I agree with Daryl. It's not like they are sort of discussing, how do we play this guy? Because he seems manageable enough. India was just setting themselves, as I said, 290 to get. Shikhar Dhawan and Virat Kohli got in and they got out, and the rest couldn't sort of catch up. So that was a plan that didn't quite work. I don't think is that huge a threat, but that's what the figures got to look like. When you have a spinner in the side, he's got to average somewhere in the 20s or early 30s, but 20s ideally, because you want your spinners to get wickets. So let's not focus on the economy rate. If the average is in the 20s, that's the kind of spinner that you want in the side.
All right, we leave it there. Lungingiri has new ball in hand. KL Rahul continues to open, as he did mention for this series. So he's out with Shikhar Dhawan, who's in good touch last game. We'll pick up the chat with Sanjay Manjrekar and Daryll Cullinan on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. 296 is what South Africa got in the last game. That was 31 more than India managed. So you get an idea of what a good score at PAL is. Back-to-back games, though. So watch out for that surface plays. And we'll have Daryll and Sanjay pick through the innings at the end of the 50 overs. Join us then.